All right. Here we are for another week, another conversation, another analysis of what has been happening in our politics. And I want to start from Jubilee. I think that's where I stopped last week. And in the last week, we have seen very many things happen. We have seen Raila Odinga walk into the Jubilee headquarters. We have seen Kioni removed and put back. We have seen a neck that has been divided. And speaking as a member of Jubilee, I've actually decided that I'm not going to take sides in this fight. I want to see where we're going. I think the only thing that excites me about this fight is the fact that Jubilee is still alive. You know, by the last election, we thought Jubilee had died. All of a sudden, we have fights about a party that people think had died. That can only be a good thing. And sometimes in politics, anything that is different from the ordinary is a good thing. We had a party that didn't perform well. However, it is actually the third largest party in parliament today, despite just having approximately 30-something members of parliament and senate. So I really wish we were not here. I wish we were able to deal with some of these things internally. But maybe sometimes it's a good thing that some of these things are done publicly. First, so that you engage the whole country into this conversation. Members and non-members of Jubilee are now watching what is happening in Jubilee. It will be interesting. I will reiterate a point I made a couple of weeks ago. I really wish and I really pray, and I want to specifically request our party leader, Uhuru Kenyatta, to step up into this confusion and provide us with direction. I know there are those who are arguing that he said in Kisumu that he is behind Raila Odinga, but that sounded like a personal statement. We want to hear him as the party leader of Jubilee saying, this is where I want the party to go, and these are the reasons. Then we can have a conversation, because also our party is democratic. We'll be able to discuss that position and come up with something that works for us. As I said, we also need to ask ourselves, which is the best political arithmetic for the party at this moment in time? Do we operate within the opposition trenches? Are we ready for that? Do we have the commitment for it? Do we have the sacrifice for it as Jubilee? Or do we get into a strategic alliance with the government? What works for those people who voted for us wherever they are? Which is the best option? There are those who argue that this government needs very strong oversight and to be held accountable. Are we able to do that as Jubilee? There are others who argue Jubilee has never been an opposition party. We need to get into a strategic alliance with the government and figure out how to deliver development for our members. This is what we're going to be watching. I suspect in the next week, 2 weeks, I know on the 24th, there will be a hearing from the political dispute tribunal, where they'll be checking what is going on, make a determination on whether Kioni is still the SG, whether the party is with the old owners or the new owners. But then from history, the history of this country, it is actually very, very difficult to get a party away from the owners in case they resist it. So let's see what happens. But that also brings me to something that concerns me at this moment in time. Today, this is February 2023, around 7 months from the last election. But in this last week, we have seen an average of 6 public organized events that for now can only be described as political. The government had, I think, 2. The opposition had, I think, 4 or 5. I know Raila was in Kisumu, he was in Kisii, earlier he had been in Busia. I know the government had been led by Ruto in Nakuru. What is happening? You know, there's a reason why campaigns are supposed to take 3 months. Our campaigns have begun. 4 years, over 4 years to the next election, we are in what looks like a full-blown campaign. A local conversation we had with somebody said, oh no, this is not sustainable. Then I reminded them that in the last government, campaigns began in 2019 and we kept arguing they are not sustainable. And they ran consistently for 4 years. Is this what is happening right now? Are we in a situation where we're watching campaigns running for another 4 years? And what does that mean for our country? This is what worries me. Right now we are facing one of the worst droughts we've ever had as a country. Hunger. People don't have food. the rains haven't come. We're even calling national prayers for the rains. We are also having a situation where we're not sure whether the fights we are fighting are our fights. Mutuma Matthew mentioned something very interesting in a column of his this past week, when he mentioned about some story that went out about some Israeli hackers and how somehow it ran in 30 of the world's most prominent investigative journals. That story about some hackers who interfered with elections, including in our country. And you'll have to ask, how does a story like that make it to The Guardian, to national, international newspaper outlets across the world? Is a fight going on between us within our country really about us? Or do we have international players involved who are trying to manage this particular government? And this is something that worries me. Then we come now to the issue of opposition. I have been watching Raila's rallies. Whether you like it or not, they're building momentum. In a very short time, it will be a matter of when, not if, Ruto is going to reach out to Raila Odinga. And this is what I was talking about against from the very beginning. In a country that is facing drought, that has the kind of levels of poverty we have, it is very, very easy to create momentum around a cause. It is very easy to stand up and criticize government. I keep telling people, I have been a defender of a government during the Jubilee administration as a member of parliament. It is very, very difficult to defend a government, even when the government is doing the right thing. There's always so many moving parts in a government. There will be mistakes made. There will be miscommunication done. There will be stuff like, this last weekend, there was, the government went and chased people, I think, out of Eldoret, or is it Nakuru? You know, and when things like that happen, you have, like now, I was listening to the deputy president commiserating with the people who were chased out in Nakuru and apologizing. And this is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. And this is a government that he runs that did this. He most probably had no idea this was going to happen. And that is a challenge of government. It has so many moving parts with so many people doing so many things, you will always make a mistake. Now, when you have somebody who's organizing, waiting for the government to make a mistake to attack them, it becomes so difficult as a government to perform. And it is very easy to fight a government. First, you don't have to speak the truth. When you're fighting the government, propaganda is your product. That is what you use. It is your missile. And you can use it every day. Everything that the government does, you can always twist it and spin it into some propaganda that is negative. So that is what is happening right now. And for me, I think I try to localize this by asking people. I was a member of parliament for Nyeri Town constituency for 5 years. Assuming that immediately I got elected, the person I had defeated immediately started mobilizing. And every time I went and did something, they would do a rally to attack what I had done. The people who would suffer would be the people of Nyeri Town constituency. When you hear me condemning the rallies that have been done by Raila Odinga, it is not because I do not agree with his positions. It is because I disagree with the actions he's taking, because they hurt all of us as Kenyans. And this is a thing we need to keep thinking about. Every time there's a rally, every time there's a political organization like this, we are being reminded about why political campaigns officially and legally should only run for 3 months. Because there's nothing else you can do as a country. Now we're starting to get pulled into the politics of the moment, while we are supposed to be figuring out how to pay school fees, how to feed our families. We're now getting stuck on who won the last election, how many votes did they get, who didn't win, who hacked what. This is a scary thing when you have 4 years to go. There's nothing much we're going to do about changing the current government. I wish, as opposition, we would pick up the issues that are happening now and move ahead with them, rather than keep going back to the past, because the past is actually that, exactly that. The past is there for us to learn from, not to stay in. We are now in a situation where we seem completely unable to move away from the past. From the 22nd, from the 9th of August 2022, we seem unable to move away from that. I don't know what's going to happen. And you know, the people who should be helping us move away from this situation are the non-state actors. And the most prominent non-state actor is the church. Unfortunately, the church has become a political player. I must say I was extremely impressed by the Vicar of the All Saints Cathedral, Reverend Wainaina, who was on TV the other day. And he had some very strong words to say about church right now. And he spoke about the way church has actually lost the capacity to be an arbiter of politics in our country because it's taken sides. Archbishop Muheria said the same thing a couple of weeks ago, that we now need to get to the point where church moves completely out of the political sphere. It needs to stop being a playing field for politicians to come and play. We have had one side of our politics, which is the government side now, before it was the opposition side, opposition in government, that was very close to church. Now, this coming week, I see that the opposition has also called for prayers at Jivanji Gardens. So now what we are seeing is a situation where now all the politicians are moving into the religious sphere to play politics in. And I think this is a very dangerous thing. I think the church, they need to go nyuma ya hama. Wanapasiwa warudi nyuma ya hama. They need to go behind the tent and ask themselves what happened. As a Christian who supported the Azimio side in the last election, I am still struggling with some of the things I heard from church, where people who did not belong to a particular side of government were nearly depicted as evil. And remember, in every church, and I am sure I can swear this, in every single church, there were people from both sides of the political divide. But then you had situations where the religious leadership were taking positions and making it look like if you are not on the same side with them, you are literally the devil's playmate, for lack of another word. How do we come back to the situation where we can listen to church without politics being involved in it, and we can have a situation where a church elder or a religious leader can call people from the government side and the opposition side to a table, and they agree to come and listen to him, knowing very well that he doesn't belong to either side. Because where we're going as a country, if we do not get arbiters, neutral arbiters who are going to be able to call the government and the opposition to a table, so that we can create stability for our country, so that we can start thinking about how to build our economy, which is struggling seriously right now. And we can think about other issues that we are struggling with. I read somewhere that 480,000 children have not gone to school yet. Where are these children? What are they doing? Who is thinking about them? Right now, the only thing we're thinking about is political power. Who has it? Who doesn't have it? How much of it is there? This needs to stop if this country is going to make it to move forward. Anyway, we continue chilling out here at Rware Central. Chai, mandazi, nyama choma, pilau, kama kawaida. But we are worried. We are worried because if we don't sort this thing out, even just the fact that we are in business, it's going to be difficult for us to do. So let's continue praying for this country. Let those people who can be heard and who are able to speak to both sides of our political divide start reaching out to both sides of our political divide. We need people to come to the center. We need people to stop throwing words at each other. We need to agree that we are one country when all is said and done. And right now we have one government, and it's the only government we have. We have to figure out how it works. God bless you. Thank you very much.